Welcome to Power Talks with Santosa. Today we have with us Ms. Pirkko-Liisa Kyostila, the Sergeant Affairs of Finland to Nepal. Finland has set examples for the world for having created stable and effective governments, for supporting humanitarian works worldwide, and for being an innovator in the field of technology, design and social change. Brussels has analyzed Finland for being a country with constructive silence. What does this philosophical honor mean?
Yes, this expression in fact is rooted in the mid-1990s when Finland was entering into EU. And Brussels was analyzing the then new member countries, namely Austria, Finland and Sweden. And in practice, this metaphor, constructive silence, means that we Finns, we tend to be better at listening and taking action than at talking. And we regard as well silence as part of a communication. And it means that if there are some silent moments in the conversation, we don't feel uneasy, but it's quite normal way of communicating as well. I think that in Finland now when the younger generations, when they have traveled more, they are more open, more social, and they might even master the small talk, which has traditionally not been highly valued in our country.
The concept of conversing in silence is very intriguing. Despite Finland being ranked as one of the world's most prosperous nations, and despite Finland also having several Nobel laureates within the country, Finns are very modest people. Is there any reason, cultural or historical, behind this humility or modesty?
Our history, culture and religion, as well as the unforgiving climate, are behind the set of values we have in our country. Modesty, when it's regarded appropriately, is a positive feature, and it's closely linked into our identity as a hard-working nation. We prefer to let our actions and achievements to do the talking on our behalf.
Finland is also known as a nation of ideas and innovations. How has Finland incorporated manufacturing and trade to create a strong economy?
Our emphasis has been on education and equality, and on building and maintaining good relations with our neighbors, and that has been the key to our success. It's worth noting that the transition that has taken place in Finland from an agrarian society into a modern state with high technology and comprehensive social welfare, the change has been relatively fast. It has happened after the Second World War during the last 6 decades. And when we look at the innovations, they are closely linked into the investments that Finland has made in the research and development. And in fact, the rate of investment we have made in the R&D, it's relatively high and even higher than in many other Western countries, and into good effect.
To what extent the membership of European Union has contributed to this economic growth? Let me put it this way, why is European Union important for Finland?
As we already earlier talked, Finland joined EU in 1995. In a referendum on joining the EU, 57% of people voted, or 57% of voters were in favor of the membership. Reasoning behind our membership has been always linked into the economic and security issues. It means in practice that we have an access into the EU internal markets. There are 27 member countries with the population of 500 million people, and also there is it has been a very important factor into our stable economic growth, and we appreciate very much as well the free movement of people and goods. In addition as well, euro, the common currency, it has provided further stability into our economy, and it has decreased the interest rates.
Finland currently holds the presidency of European Union in Nepal. Can you briefly highlight some major cooperation and supports for Nepal during your presidency?
Finland runs the local EU presidency on behalf of the Czech Republic until end of June. EU member countries present in Nepal, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, the UK and the Netherlands, as well as the European Commission. We all are major partners for Nepal in the ongoing development and peace process. Our support has and is mainly financial. When looked at us together, we are the major aid contributor for Nepal, if not the biggest one, in fact. During our presidency, due to the eventful spring in Nepal, EU has been very active in dialogue with all the major political partners and actors. And the EU message has been all the time the same. Emphasis on cooperation, seeking for common ground and consensus, confidence building and working for common good.
Finland's aid policy on climate change looks very promising on a global level. Due to the global warming, the Himalayas are under a huge threat. Will we see any cooperation in this sector in the future?
Finland's main activity in the climate change is going to be in the forest resource assessment. And once when we have the outcome out of this project, we will know in longer run which way Finland will be involved in the sector of climate change in Nepal. In the meantime, Finland is cooperating for establishing early warning systems with the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology of Nepal, as well as with ICIMOD.
We'll continue with our conversation after a short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Power Talks. We are in conversation with Ms. Pirkko-Liisa Kyostila, the Sergeant Affairs of Finland to Nepal. As you might have known already, that in Nepal, the culture of politics dominates all the other sectors that affect the daily life of common people. Despite political chaos, how important is it that we uphold creative things, we uphold the culture, and also focus on economic growth?
Nepal's culture is unique and rich, and I'm sure that it's an endless source of inspiration for Nepali people, for artists, and it is the same for us foreigners as well. So it's essential to maintain the culture and creativity, but as well it's very important to work for strong, inclusive economic growth.
In February this year, Finland's Minister of Foreign Trade and Development, Dr. Paavo, visited Nepal, and he promised to double the aid for Nepal by 2012. Now that the government has changed in Nepal and the world faces recession, will this generous offer still stay valid?
It's still valid, but it's good to remember that in order to reach that goal, the sincere efforts by all parties involved are needed. We, development partners of Nepal, we are growingly concerned about the security situation. Our operational space is getting more limited, and we follow this situation and development very carefully and closely. So it might be, in fact, that this aid commitment Finland made, the implementation of this commitment can be difficult, for instance, due to the security situation. And for that reason, I would like to throw the ball in this issue to the court of the government of Nepal.
During the earlier Prime Minister Prachanda's visit to Finland, this was in April 2009, this year itself, was there any concrete outcome, or did it just serve as a friendly visit?
High-level visits are a central part of diplomatic relations between countries, and we have had ministerial visits between Nepal and Finland over the last years, but the last visit of a Nepali Prime Minister took place almost 16 years ago. So once when the government based on the elections was established, we felt that it was the time to welcome Prime Minister for a visit to Finland. And during his visits, we discussed many issues in common interest and concern. For instance, in order to expand our development program with Nepal, we were very interested in hearing and listening to the Prime Minister's views of issues like peace, security, human rights, and so on. And as well, recently Finland signed an agreement on promotion and protection of investments with Nepal. So his visit to Finland promoted as well trade and investments, which both are well below the potential, and he was accompanied by a business delegation.
Now that the government has changed dramatically in Nepal, and since Finland heads the presidency of European Union, how has the EU heads of missions in Nepal looked at this current change?
EU heads of mission have been concerned over the damaging consequences the ever-changing political situation might have for the peace process, and of course delivering the needs of Nepali people suffer as well when there is turmoil in the politics.
On 26th May last month, you led the delegation of European Union heads of missions to meet the new Prime Minister Madhukumar Nepal and urged him to collaborate with all political parties to find a way forward. How was your message taken by the new Prime Minister, and how does the EU heads of missions look at the formation of the new government?
Our discussion with Prime Minister Nepal was positive and constructive. Prime Minister Nepal shared our view that it is important to seek for common ground and continue working closely together. It is indeed essential now that the parties within themselves and between each other are building on cooperation and consensus. By definition, disagreements and consensus are part of the politics and policy making. But at the same time, it is important to remember that Nepali people, they are in need of basic services, and delivering these basic services to the people should be the priority for every single politician.
For Nepal to move ahead, the politicians and the citizens have to focus on economy and trade. But what is it that Nepal lacks that does not allow the country to focus on economy and globalization?
As we have already earlier in our discussion touched upon, political instability, lack of public security, rule of law, and lack of basic infrastructure, all of these have an adverse effect on the economy. For Nepal, being now in the very crucial transitional phase, it is important to finalize the peace process and constitution drafting. And only then the economic progress really can take place.
You were born in a forest village and you have great interest in constructive works, in construction. We have a similar background in Nepal where we have lots of forest villages, and I myself come from one. But we lack the sense of constructiveness, and as a result the country is falling apart. What is a message that you would like to give to our country and our people?
This is interesting that you refer to my background. Indeed, I was born in a Finnish forest village, and still now, always when I have holiday and I go Finland, I go back to my roots and to my village. And construction is very literal in my case, because my major hobby is building a wooden house in the Finnish forest. So I think that when we are referring to Nepal's situation, it's important to get the own house in order first, then everything else is possible. And this we can practice at the individual level, at the national level. So this is the way we are working, but I am doing it as well in my private life through building this house And in that activity, my friends have been able to participate over the years, but during the last couple of years, I have realized that I don't have anymore too many friends coming to visit me to my village because they know what's waiting for them.
You know,
lots of work at the construction site.
We'll continue with our conversation after a short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Power Talks. We are in conversation with Ms. Pirkko-Liisa Kyostila, the Sergeant Affairs of Finland to Nepal. Since 1939, several Finns have won the most prestigious Nobel Prize in literature, chemistry and medicine. And the most recent Nobel Peace Prize went to former President Martti Ahtisaari. Would you like to share with us your feeling of national pride?
When a compatriot wins any of the Nobel Prizes, there's a good reason to be proud, and especially now when I have had a chance to follow quite closely the peace process here in Nepal. Martti Ahtisaari's Nobel Prize felt especially valuable.
Finland was the first nation in Europe that allowed their women to vote and even contest in elections. This was about a century ago in 1906. How did this vision originate, and is this the reason behind 42% of parliamentarians being women and 60% of the ministers are women in Finland?
Indeed, Finland was the first country in Europe that gave a right for women to vote, and Finland was among the first ones in the world as well in that respect. And I think that Finland was in the world the first one to give the full rights for women, meaning to have a right to vote and to stand for election. Since 1906 a lot has happened, but still 1906 is remembered in our history as a milestone on which the Finnish women have built. Today women are very active partners in the society, in politics, and 85% of women, Finnish women, work outside the home. And all this has led certainly into these numbers which you mentioned, of which we are very proud of, that 60% of ministers in today's cabinet are women. My generation has grown equal with men, and it was interesting when the present government was established 2 years ago. Prime Minister Matti Vanhanen, he insisted that at least 50% of the portfolios should be given to women.
Even in the foreign service, I see there are more women diplomats in contrast to other countries.
Yes, and there are out of 1,700 members we have in our foreign ministry, over 1,000 are women, and increasingly there are women as well as heads of the missions and delegations and embassies.
In the year 2000, Tarja Halonen was elected as the first women president of Finland. She was re-elected in 2006. She seems to be very successful. How does the young generation in Finland view her leadership?
I think that for younger generations, president's gender is not anymore an issue. There was in the earlier election than 2000, there was already a woman candidate for the president's post, but that time she was not elected. The time was not right, and indeed changes take their time. Interestingly, when President Halonen was elected as president, she told how soon afterwards she received quite a number of letters from girls who expressed their delight that now anything seems to be possible for them, even becoming president of Finland. But what is background is the education and the equal opportunities for education, whether you are a girl or a boy, and that has been in place already for a long time in Finland. And that is the reason why competent women can achieve anything, indeed, if they are ready to work hard.
Finland is an example to the world when it comes to good governance and political stability. Finland is also one of the very few least corrupt countries in the world. How has Finland achieved this?
We know how prosperity, stability, good governance, anti-corruption, they go hand in hand. And there are a few factors behind this low level of anti-corruption to which you referred. Firstly, I would like to mention our value base, the set of values which we already discussed earlier as well, and also prominence of women in decision making seems to be one of the factors, as well as the institutions and structures that guard against abuse of power, and also low income disparities and adequate wages.
To what extent has the women leadership contributed to the good governance of your nation and kept it free from corruption?
It's our experience that women's active role in politics and society contributes to good governance. And there seems to be as well correlation between low corruption level and women's participation in parliamentary work and in higher public offices.
The world sees terrorism as its worst enemy, and that is true. But in my personal opinion, I feel corruption is by far the worst enemy because it destroys the individuals, then the societies, and then the nation, and probably the entire world. How can Finland give out the message to the world to stay away from corruption?
It's good to remember, of course, that Finland is not a country that is absolutely free from corruption. And of course, Finland is also a small country with only 5.3 million people. So Finland cannot be considered a powerhouse in the global games. Finland's experience, of course, is interesting, and we are happy to share it, though I believe that it cannot copy it directly, as every country has its own track to development and its own specific circumstances.
Even though the mechanism of Finland's dealing with corruption is not the same model that other countries can follow, let us hope that the countries worldwide takes it as an example. With this hope, I wish you good luck and goodbye.